My name's HR. I'll be your host on the first episode of Conspiracy or the Truth. And I chose um, topic of the fires that are burning out of control in California and across the western United States and in Greece. And I want to discuss a little bit about um, what's happening, what I think is happening, and on a little bit of history. Um, right now, we have 60 fires burning across the western United States, with one burning in Redding, California, as we speak. The fires are just burning out of control. Two firemen have been killed, I think, in Yellowstone National Park. And this is the second year uh, for fires in Northern California. Now, there's some strange things about these fires, which we uh, we can discuss. Number one, last year, most of the fires kept to the rich areas of Northern California. Um, they burned out of control, supposedly. Yet, um, when the fire sites were shown, um, fires the fires all burned in straight lines, um, with a start point and an ending point. Um, the houses were totally incinerated, but um, the biggest thing that stood out about these fires was that the glass and the ceramic tiles were melted. Um, last year, uh, a fire marshal and a fire chief was spoken to on YouTube, and you can look back on that. Just type in the fires from last year, and it'll pop up. Um, so I won't put it in the show notes, but these men, who some of them had, up to 30 years experience dealing with pretty much every kind of fire you can imagine, had never seen a fires like this before. They couldn't identify exactly what started it, or you know anything like that. But they did say that house fires do not burn hot enough to melt glass and ceramic tiles. They just don't. And as a matter of fact, car fires don't either. And so the glass being melted out of the windows of the cars was very unusual. Also, I think it was a fire marshal, no, a fire chief, said that while he was inspecting the damage that was caused by this, um, he noticed that there was a hole burned right through the middle of an engine block, as if somebody had shot some sort of a beam or something through the engine block and just melted a hole right through the middle of it, which totally stumped him. And he had spoke to a lot of the other fire chiefs in the area, people he knew and had coordinated with in the past, and they were stumped. They had no idea why these fires burned in straight lines, burning the houses and the cars, but leaving the greenery and the trees untouched. Also, even plastic or rubber garbage cans were sitting right next to where the fire was burning, and they were untouched. And they had never seen that before. Um, so that was last year, and some other things about that just as a sideline. I spoke to um, one of the residents, one lady who lived there, and she said that um, they they were going to go and try to get a rebuilding loan, but unfortunately, government crews had come in and knocked down the foundations of the houses that were left, and she was unable to get a rebuilding loan, as was most of the other people in the area. But the big thing was they were still on the hook for paying for the mortgages and the taxes on those houses that, well, now don't exist. And the other big thing was that they were also on the hook for the cleanup of each property that they had each one owned. And in some cases it was thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars um, to clean it up. And she wasn't too happy about that. Now, flash forward to today, we have 60 odd fires burning out of control across the West. A fire burning again in Redding, California, with, I might add, a fire NATO I saw on on a Facebook feed I have. It was spinning behind a house. Apparently, I don't think I've ever seen a fire NATO before, short of a movie, but there it was, a fire NATO, and it's burning out of control. And interesting thing is, the fires are burning in straight lines again, which is kind of strange. But not everything has come out of Reading yet, so we're not sure about that or even the cause yet. Again, you know, um, it's been speculated, that after looking at all the facts, it's been speculated, and I'm not saying that this is what happened, but it's been speculated that "do" was used. It's an interesting little word. It means directed energy weapons. And I believe last year they caught a light beam coming from the sky, coming down into an area where they had a fire. Now, the naysayers will say, well, it could have been a meteor, could have been you know, a flash of light, a explosion, you know, whatever, just fill in the blank. But, most likely, they said the most likely reason for it was a directed energy weapon starting the fire, or perhaps burning the area, which would, account for um, the line starting, the fire starting in one area and burning to another area and then stopping. But again, I I have to state that we don't know. It's unclear what started it, but as I said, you can make up your own minds where you stand on that, but it did look like some sort of a beam of light or laser or whatever you want to call it started in one place and ended up somewhere else. And such a thing might account for the melting of glass and the ceramic. But again, it's up to you to judge. Now, having said that, I want to discuss Greece because apparently they're experiencing, well, similar similar things as California experienced with fires burning out of control, um, fires starting burning at one point and ending at a point, leaving everything on the other side of that point untouched, um, leaving the trees untouched, the greenery untouched, but everything in between that wasn't greenery or trees was totally destroyed, um, including cars, houses, whatever. The glass again melted. The ceramic tiles again melted. And this time they caught multiple images of beams coming down from the sky and where they hit a fire raged. Um, and again, uh, we have no evidence except for these videos and these pictures, you know. So, question is, you know, why? Why would um, a government entity, a private entity, or whatever do such a thing if they had such a thing as a directed energy weapon? And for that, we have to um, kind of cover some stuff that is going to take us a little bit away from the fires, and that is that the UN has been touting um, their um, directives, um, which was basically the Agenda 21, Agenda 25, and Agenda 30, which is obviously short for 20, 21, 25, and 30. In short, I won't bore you with all the details, but basically, it has to do with humans overusing natural resources and the need to eliminate the population, to lower the population, and thereby lower humans' impact on nature, humans' impact on using natural resources, and other things. And among these agendas, and again, I won't go into detail, but um, they talk about building smart cities and basically moving people into smart cities and allowing uh, places where the humans lived to go fallow once again, to eliminate off ramps on highways going to those areas so that those towns go fallow and become, you know, as they were before. Um, so they are in the process of building these cities as we speak. I've heard of one of those cities being built in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be completely AI and robot run, and it will be the first of such cities. They built a city, um, I think it was it's near Russia. I forget the exact city. I think it's the exact state, but it was one of the original, um, Baltic states where they're building what they call their capital. And they're talking about eliminating populations. Now, people such as Bill Gates have put out videos on lowering the population and the damage that the population has done to the world, and that it can be unsustainable at its present rate, and it must be, you know, lowered in order to, you know, sustain to a sustainable level that they can, sustain people into the future. And so they set some goals. Obviously, if you've heard of the Georgia Guidestones, there was a 500 million perpetually. They wanted to keep humanity at. Um, I have seen some videos talking about, and other things talking about, they wanted to have 65 million uh, people left in the United States by 2025. So the question remains, how would they do that? How would they eliminate over 300 million people in the space of what, 6, 7 years? Um, Now, we've seen an uptick in volcanoes recently. We've seen an uptick in storms. Storms are becoming more violent. Um, Obviously, fires happening. Well, but fires have happened before, people will say, and that's true, but they never happened with people taking pictures of lights coming down from the sky causing that fire. Now, that's what was said last year, and it's being insinuated for this year. Um, Myself, I haven't been there, so I can't state with any kind of certainty that that's what happened. However, I can say that according to the fire chiefs in the area, fires don't burn in straight lines. They don't jump over trees and greenery, and they don't melt glass and ceramic tiles, at least not house fires or car fires. Now, that was said by a fire chief who had been dealing on a daily basis with fires for many, many years. So I trust the man. I trust his opinion. I trust his insight into the situation. Now, that being said, we have to ask ourselves the question, what caused it? And at this time, the only answer we have is the possibility of a directed energy weapon being used. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened. I can't prove it. I am saying that that's what appears to have happened based on all available information. Now, you can go and look up the videos. You can go and look up the pictures online, on Facebook, on other platforms, um, and you can decide for yourself. I will put in my blog, which has a posting about it and a video about it in the show notes, um, and you can uh, make the determination for yourself. But what I want to say is that we have to start looking at the bigger picture, and it's not just that there's fires being caused, or just that volcanoes suddenly are coming back to life, or just the earthquakes are happening across the world. um, we have we have to look at why these things are happening, and is it possible that something artificial is causing it? Is it possible that some sort of a, I don't know, frequency device, harp, whatever, is being used? Now, I have to say that based on what I know about the powers that be, the UN, those who are trying to build the new world order. They're trying every way in the world to make their dream a reality, and they're using the UN and every possible conceivable thing they can to do that. Um, do I think that this is part of it? Well, the honest answer is I don't know. What I think is that if they're doing every possible conceivable thing they can to make their dream a reality, then generally speaking, this very well could be. Again, you know, I I'm offering my opinion for what it's worth. Um, but the people are suffering right now in Redding, California, with these fires, and in other parts of the West, including Colorado. I saw the other day where they said that because of a fire, it had caused a whole side of I guess, water area to just break loose, and they had landslides and waterfall coming down, and it was disastrous. Um, and I see that people are suffering in Greece. They're losing a lot of their homes, their cars, and everything they own to this thing. And I call it a thing because honestly, um, it seems to be mindless, but it has a mind. It has a purpose, and the purpose is they're trying to eliminate people from these areas. And neighborhood by neighborhood, um, street by street, subdivision by subdivision, they're just burning people out. Rezoning, because last year, they rezoned the areas, many of the areas where they couldn't rebuild, even if they had the money and were allowed. They wouldn't be allowed to, so they were stuck. And California is one of the areas where they're talking about putting people in smaller and smaller houses, um, possibly in preparation for building these smart cities where they can move people in and keep them under 24-hour surveillance, and just control everything that you do, with smart devices and possibly chips embedded or whatever, what have you. They can basically control your every move. And they also have talked about other things, ways to actually modify your thought processes, to control what you're thinking, or at least know what you're thinking. Um, and this is where we're heading. We're heading in that direction towards total control and a total loss of freedom. Even though right now we really don't have that much freedom left, and it's being eroded daily. Um, One of the easiest ways to control the slave is basically to make him think he's free. Then he never questions. He never wonders if there's more, because as far as he's concerned, he's a free man, and that's the easiest way to enslave an entire population, is to make them think they're free, and yet they're not. And you know, uh, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of where we stand right now. We think we're free, and well, I don't think we're free. Too many things have been taken away, even since 9/11. Um, too much of our rights have been eroded, with more constantly being eroded daily, with the Democrats screaming for more and more gun control, more and more language control, so that you can't say what you want. There is no free speech. Hate speech. They use that as a stepping stone to shutting people up. You know, um, calling people derogatory names and demonizing people on a daily basis. If they don't like what you're saying, they call you a Nazi, um, even though you're not. It's just you're trying to, you know, um, basically say what you want to say in a free country that's not that free anymore. You know, I've heard a lot of people talking about these things lately, and the more I listen to it, the more I realize that maybe I haven't been paying as much attention as I should have. Um, I see groups attacking each other. I see, well, actually, I see mostly left leaning groups attacking um, innocent people, basically. People that had nothing to do with whatever it was that they thought they were protesting against. Um, and I wonder if these things are just being set up to, you know, give the illusion that there's actually a left and a right. Keep people fighting while the powers that be continue doing what they have to do to create their new world order. So they keep the illusion going, that there are two sides, that religions hate each other, and people on the left and the right hate each other, and people that are black and white hate each other, when that's not actually the case. Um, no one really hates anybody. It's just they react to things that are happening. But have you ever asked yourself for just a second if what's happening is actually happening? Or is it just a big street play being put on by somebody with a lot of money to pay people? Hmm? And all of these things are taking place, and all these distractions, such as, sports and things going on across the world, and, so and so's hair in Hollywood. Um, and it's to distract you and to keep you from seeing what they're doing behind the scenes. And that is the same thing they've been doing for the last more than 100 years, more than 200 years, possibly. And that is trying to build this new world order where they can control everything, eliminate um, a good deal of the world population, and basically sit up in their lofty homes and enjoy the life they want to live and use the rest of the people as a bunch of slaves, which is pretty much what we are now, but it's nothing compared to what they want us to be, you know? And I know I'm preaching and I'm talking about other things, and I wanted to talk about directed energy weapons and the fires that are taking place. And I just thought I'd give you a little background about my own opinion about what I think is happening. Because quite honestly, You know, things don't just happen by happenstance. There's no, um, there's no just sudden occurrence. Things happen for reasons. And if, and I say if, people are using these directed energy weapons to destroy people's homes and move people out, then it's being done for a reason. And you can bet on that. Now, do we know who's doing it? No, we don't. Can we prove it? No, we can't prove it except we have video and pictures of the beams coming down. But again, unless you were there, unless you saw it, you know, I mean, the evidence left behind is that fires are burning in straight lines and burning hotter than they're supposed to, and being able to melt glass and melt ceramic tiles and being able to start and stop without destroying trees, without destroying greenery. Well, you can see where I'm going. I've been watching this for a while, and I've been doing a little research here and there. And people say, "Well, did you research it all?" Yes, I did. I did. Last year, in depth, I took a look at it, and I listened to all the things that were being said by the people that were there, by the fire chiefs, what have you. And I've come to the opinion that something very odd is happening. Now, my opinion is mine, okay, based on my information and based on my research. And, I can only offer you my humble opinion. But my humble opinion is that it's possible. It's possible that this is what's happening. It's very possible that they're using directed energy weapons. But it's my opinion. You can take it with a grain of salt. You decide. You go take the do the research, listen to the videos, read the information, listen to the men who talked about it, listen to the families who talked about what happened, and for that matter, go to get you a book on Agenda 21, Agenda 25, and Agenda 30 if you haven't heard of it. It's the UN agendas. Um, and I'll put something in the show notes about that. Um, I think that each one of us, each day, needs to um, awaken ourselves a little bit. Realize that where we think we're living, we're not living. Okay? We're not free. We're not. Okay? Get that out of your head. Um, we have a constitution in the United States that is supposed to guarantee us freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to, you know, bear arms. But each day, more and more of these freedoms are being taken away. Under President Barack Obama, they actually had designated free speech areas for people to talk in, and they still do in many of the colleges. And only in a specific area are you allowed to utilize your rights. Well, the bottom line is, if you have to go to any area to utilize your rights, you don't have any rights. They're telling you what to do. And if you don't do it, well, you'll see what happens. In that time and under President Obama, if you left the designated area of free speech and tried to exercise your right, well, they either put you back or arrested you. Um, And I'm not sure what they would do in the college campuses, maybe expel you or suspend you from the school. See, that's the sign that you're not free. If you have to ask for permission for a right, you don't have that right. If you have to beg someone to allow you to have that right, you don't have that right. And if you have to go to a place to exercise that right, well, you're not free and you don't have that right. Rights are only rights if they're exercised. And you only have as many rights as you can personally exercise. Um, this first episode was meant to be a inaugural episode, so to speak, to give you an idea of where I want to take this channel and how I would like to share these truths. Each week I'll have somebody maybe co-hosting with me, or I'll be by myself. But either way, we'll bring to you as much information as we can, as much truth as we can, and we'll decide whether or not these things are conspiracy or the truth. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and have a good day, a good night, a good afternoon. Bye.